Beautiful morning. I missed what was an incredible weather weekend in this town. Took a 48-hour, not even, like 38-hour trip to Boston, visit my brother. He's been up there several years. I have not had a chance to see him up there because he moved up there the same month that Claire was born, and I've had 3 kids since then, and it's not exactly easy to be like, yeah, sure, I'm going to head out there for a weekend. So I missed a couple of soccer games, but as the assistant coach, they were A-OK. Girls won. I know you were very concerned, Mark, but the girls remain undefeated in the kindergarten soccer league. So they are destined for the World Cup. Oh, I know. They were Ric Flairing it left and right from what I heard yesterday. But they made it without me. It's kind of a miracle. But either way, I get to St. Louis yesterday, pop open my laptop, had a layover there that was supposed to be 2 hours. Turned into a 4-hour layover. Man, that St. Louis airport just blows. It really is just the worst. These major airlines should start doing more connecting flights in Kansas City. Food's better, people are nicer, better amenities, better bathrooms, everything here in Kansas City. But anyway, pop open the laptop, start scanning through the news, and I see that Trump was on Meet the Press yesterday with Kristen Welker. And the top headline story, the top trending story, was Trump saying he doesn't know if he must uphold the Constitution. So I have this app or this website I use that kind of aggregates all these different news stories to kind of see what's trending. I mean, you can get this on social media, but it's this website I use called Topic Pulse. And the top story in every category is Trump saying he doesn't know if he's going to uphold the Constitution. And I'm like, oh, boy, here we go. Dictator at large. Let's go. Well, of course, it was largely BS. Although I will say Trump's not the best at answering some of these questions, which is why I don't understand why he does some of these interviews. I think he enjoys it. I think he gets off on the idea of sparring with these people, like ABC's Terry Moran last week and Kristen Welker on Meet the Press. But knowing full well they're going to take a soundbite and then use it as a headline, and most people are just going to see the headline and keep moving. Say, there he is, Dictator Trump. So this is NBC News' headline. Trump, asked if he has to uphold the Constitution, says, quote, I don't know. That's the headline NBC News ran. USA Today runs this headline. Trump says, quote, I don't know, end quote, when asked if he must uphold the Constitution. So 99% of people are not going to bother actually reading the story and looking for context. We're too busy. There's too much media being thrown at us. People don't want to know the why. They don't want the details. And coincidentally enough, I've been reading this book for a while. It's called Trust Me, I'm Lying. And I finished it. I was traveling, so I had a lot of time to read, which I never have at home. So I finally finished this book called Trust Me, I'm Lying. And it's how to manipulate the media. And I thought that for my job, I'm not trying to manipulate anybody. I'm here. I got an opinion. You can call up the show, call us out on it, disagree, agree, whatever it might be. But I wanted to get a behind-the-scenes look on how social media has helped mainstream media influence and manipulate an entire, not just country in our case, but frankly, the world. And it was a fascinating read. And it ties perfectly into this story and how the president of the United States says something, they run a headline, most people forget reading the story, are not even going to search out the clip, and are just going to use that headline to confirm their bias against somebody, in this case, President Trump. So here's the short clip of Trump that was making some of the rounds, and then I'll play the long clip for you in terms of what he said about the Constitution, and the context was related to, of course, the left's new George Floyd, and that is Kilmore Abrego Garcia, the man who is down in the El Salvadoran prison.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me. And they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Trump says, I've got the lawyers who are going to follow what the Supreme Court said. Now, was the I don't know clip maybe a little mistake? Sure. But in the context there, and that's the short clip. I've got the long clip here coming up. The short clip there, he even says, I've got the best lawyers who are going to follow the Supreme Court. Here's the long clip. This is the longer back and forth between Kristen Welker, Meet the Press, and President Trump yesterday on the Kilmer-Abrego-Garcia situation, which drove all the headlines yesterday and into this morning of Trump saying he's not going to follow or I don't know was his quote, if he's going to follow the Constitution.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know. It might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth. Some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Is anyone in your administration right now in contact with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia to the United States?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the Attorney General that question.
So by Trump standards, you hear that full minute-long clip, and he's really deflecting. He's saying, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. That's up to the DOJ. That's up to the attorneys. They'll work this out. But listen, I was elected to, in part, deport 10, 15, 20, whatever the number is. I was elected in part to deport millions of people that Joe Biden, my predecessor, illegally allowed into the country. You're not going to get 2 million court cases here, okay? That's his broader point. Now, is there a slip-up saying, I don't know? Sure. In a perfect world, does Trump say, of course our plan is to follow the Constitution, and that's what our attorneys are working on right now? Yes. That's probably the best answer. And then that ties into the second part of this. There's no doubt, as this text came in here from 2499, Pete, this is why mainstream media will go the way of the National Enquirer, junk news. Content creators on Rumble is where I get all my news, and of course on your show. Well, that's very nice. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Such a nice man.
And I'm glad you're here on KCMO. But the other element and the other angle, as I just flipped to CNN and I see them talking about this, Trump and the Constitution with New York Governor Kathy Hochul, that's awfully rich. As much as Trump is funny in these interviews, as much as he is good for those of us who do this for a living, I do wonder if a part of him should just say, you know, I'll give these people their gaggles. I'll do the media gaggles when, like, he just talks to the press openly from the Oval Office. But giving NBC an exclusive, boosting their ratings, and then giving, like, CNN, MSNBC, and all the others 24 hours of fodder to hit me over one quote that they largely take out of context. Am I doing myself any favors by doing that? That's I think, a fair question to internally ask. Now, Susie, while no one's going to tell Trump what interviews to do and what interviews not to do, he's going to do what he wants to do. But I do wonder if he were to just take a step back and say, you know what? These people are never going to give me a fair shot. They're always going to skew what I say. And they're going to take a one quote out of context and turn it into a 24-hour news cycle. So in which case, how am I benefiting myself here? I'm not saying the guy should be Joe Biden and never do an interview. That's not what I'm saying. But he's done a lot of these over the last couple of weeks. He's done The Atlantic, the written piece. He's done Meet the Press over the weekend. He did ABC last week. And at some point you say, am I hitting a point of diminishing returns, knowing full well one quote will be taken wildly out of context and turned into a 24-hour media news cycle? I would cut a lot of these out if I was him. I would. I think he enjoys them too much. And I think a part of him thinks that they don't really hurt him. And maybe they don't. Maybe just, people on both sides take him at face value for what they are. But at the same time, if I'm trying to win people over, why am I bothering with Kristen Welker? What am I getting out of that? 913-408-7957. I just want to hear from you because I know a lot of you obviously support this guy. Would you back off on some of the interviews, or would you just say keep them going? I don't care. Beat these people up. Of course, figuratively speaking, we're having too good of a time. Real quick, John in Grain Valley. Go ahead, buddy.
Pete, I got to agree and to disagree. Yeah, I agree Trump needs to work his messaging. I get it, but that's not Trump. So I disagree. No, keep doing these because just like you showed, let me play the whole interview. And there's enough, finger quote, alternative media sources, unquote, who now will do the whole 1 minute and show the hypocrisy, show the stupidity.
Here's the problem, John. John, the problem is the people who need to get the context behind the quotes are never going to search for it. Never.
No, that's the beauty of it. Let them lay in their own.
No, it's not the beauty of it if it causes you to lose elections, though, right?
Here's the thing. Trump is a one in a lifetime. I can't see J.D. Vance doing this. I don't see anybody on the horizon who could do it like he does. But if you can keep pointing out the foolishness, maybe that works.
Yeah, I hope so. I'd love for that to be the case, John. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I do.
Do you hear the responses of an individual who thinks he's in a one-on-one interview and answering as himself versus that bluster that he does when he's doing the presidential thing? I don't know if he kind of slipped mentally into that. We're just talking here. It's just me, Donald, and you, not the president.
Maybe. Yeah, that could be part of it. I'm not saying it's not. I just wonder what the value is.
Agreed.
And that's the question that needs to be asked here. What is the inherent value of deciding to go down that road, right, and take that approach? Guy's not wrong. Not wrong. But if you're saying to yourself, okay, I'm doing a lot of things, a lot of people are going to go against me because of just who I am. The media is 92% against me. That's the figure that came out last week. 92% of his media coverage has been negative. Why would I give these people more ammunition knowing how disingenuous they are going to be about it? And it's something internally they should be asking themselves, because now you get 24-hour news cycle of Trump doesn't know if he's going to uphold the Constitution. Dictator! Oh, my gosh. Please stop.
Fake news.
I know. Scott Fawn will be here, 8 o'clock, Missouri Times on KCMO Talk Radio. We got the good, the bad, and the ugly this hour as well. Great to be back with you on a Monday morning on KCMO. Got to find the whole story, man. You got to do it. 913-408-7957. I didn't even know that O'Reilly was going to dig into that Kilmar Abrego story, but it ties into what we were just talking about. And that was the president's interview on Meet the Press. The headline that comes out of it for most national media outlets is Trump says he doesn't know if he's going to follow the Constitution regarding Kilmar Abrego Garcia taken out of context. John's in Topeka. What's up, John? You're on KCMO.
Morning, Pete. My neighbor, he's 86 years old, and that's all he gets. See nightly news and CBS. And so here I am, the good neighbor that says, hey, you've been lied to, and they're manipulating you. And I show him, the rest of the story are different things. And he was a Democrat, and now he's an independent because of me. And the fact is that if it wasn't for me showing him bald-headed dudes wearing lipstick and dresses and stealing suitcases from airports, he'd be like, what? Because he's like, he never heard that. I was like, yeah, this guy is in the Biden administration. I said, this other guy is in the Biden administration. And I showed him the rest of the story. He's like, oh, my gosh. I said, yeah, this is who you got running the country. And he was like, oh, no. And he didn't never see any of that on the mainstream media, but I showed him. And so there's a lot of people out there that they don't get the rest of the story because nobody takes the time to explain to them, hey, this is what's really actually happening. So,
that is great, John. And I hope you turned him on to the show in 95.7 FM.
Oh, yeah. I told him, I said, you need to listen to Pete. Everybody needs to listen to Pete in the morning. It's just entertaining and it's informative.
Yeah.
And it's absolute truth. Because you guys don't stay on the radio and you don't have your job if you lie. I mean, if you lie, you lose everybody. So you can't lie. You got to give us the truth, and it's got to be accurate and on time.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Because if you don't, then you'll lose everybody.
Thank you, John. I'm glad you turned over that neighbor to 95.7 FM. Good work, buddy. I appreciate that. Very, very nice of you.
Such a nice man.
Yes. Well done there, John. Excellent. As always. I see, that is also why the polling would suggest that the age demographic that is most against Trump is 65 plus, partially because of what John just mentioned there. An older demographic is less likely to find media information that is not being fed from, the nightly news, right? And that the polling came out, last week, 2 weeks ago, and it showed that. The most anti-Trump age demographic is 65 plus, which is a total about face from where politics was even 15 years ago. It's fascinating stuff.